Well, good evening and a very warm welcome to this edition of Public Forum. A comprehensive and effective legal framework to deal with all aspects of terrorism needs to be enacted, said the Second Administrative Reforms Commission in its 8th report on combating terrorism. Releasing this 185-page report, Chairman M. Veerappa Moily felt that present laws were not enough to tackle the menace and said the law should have adequate safeguards to prevent its misuse. Well, the number of attacks on civilian targets in major cities in India has once again raised the question whether special laws need to be enacted to counter terrorism and deal with terrorist activities. That's what we discuss in Public Forum today. Well, as bombs explode in crowded marketplaces and places of worship within Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Jaipur, Mumbai or Delhi, many innocent lives are abruptly snuffed out while others are marked for life, maimed or traumatized. The terrorists who planned these explosives more than succeed in their intentions. The fallout is not just maimed bodies but mistrusting minds. Communal profiling is, of course, the most grievous fallout, and the communal atmosphere gets vitiated as a result. And to discuss more on the new anti-terror strategy, whether we should have it and how to have it, I'm joined by a very distinguished panel. I'm joined by Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, who happens to be the president of the Lok Satta party, also the former member of the Administrative Reforms Commission. It's a pleasure having you. In fact, right next to him is Shri Ved Marwa, who happens to be the former DG, National Security Guards, as well as he was also the Commissioner of Police, Delhi. And right next to him is Shri Sanjay Parekh, who happens to be the Advocate of Supreme Court. Having a pleasure having you here. And in fact, we are joined by Shri Harsh Dhobal, who is the Managing Editor of Combat Law. Very welcome, very warm welcome to you, Mr. Dhobal, in fact, on the panel. Well, before going into the details of the entire Administrative Reform Commission's report, the panel's recommendation, it is really important to see the current situation that we have in our country and wherein the question of internal security arises. So how do you see, Mr. Prakash, coming up with that report and the entire recommendations that have been given?
Shalini, we have to put things in perspective. If you take the number of terror incidents and the number of victims and the bloodshed and the disruption of both societal life and economic activity in the country, India today is the #1 victim in the world. From the 1st of January 2004 till the 31st of March 2008, India has had something like 3,900 incidents of terrorism, killing 4,500 people and maiming 10,000 people. It's more than what Pakistan had. Pakistan is now regarded as a failed state, a state that's probably on the verge of disaster, on the brink of disaster. But India is facing far greater terrorism. And unless we do something on a sustainable basis, in a humane and constitutional way, and yet in a very firm and in a very determined way, the country is in serious peril. We cannot underestimate the terrorist threat.
We cannot underestimate that, but having a stringent law, more stringent law on that, Mr. Marwa, your stand on it?
Well, India needs a number of things in its counter-terrorism strategy. Special laws is one, but special laws alone will not stop terrorism. You need a number of other things. You need special forces, you need effective intelligence agencies, you need a professional police force which is insulated from political interference. You need technology, you need training, you need equipment, and you need most of all public cooperation, because there is a certain amount of despondency and cynicism amongst the people today, because they think that the government can't make up its mind what to do. One wing of the government says one thing, another wing of the government says another thing, and the debate, an unending debate, is going on and on and on with no action on the ground.
But looking at the present state of laws we have in our country and the laws that we actually have to deal with terrorism presently, having a more stringent law, and that too with a chance of its misuse, which is quite rampant in a country like India. How do you see that?
See, as rightly pointed out by my colleagues, see, what we need today is not changing the law, like you bring in TADA, then you bring in POTA, then you say there should be change in bail provisions, then we should change the police custody 15 days, 30 days to 30 days, 90 days. Means these are all things which really point out that you are trying to invade into something which is provided by the Constitution, a protection, and also a human right mechanism. The moment you go into that, then are you really justified in bringing in the special laws, is the question. And whether the laws which we have are adequate or not. For example, you say that a terrorist will not be caught or investigation will not be done unless you have a provision of bail, unless you have a provision that any statement which is given to the police, confessional statement, will be accepted. Is that the really endeavor that then only the terrorists will be caught? So therefore, we have to point out that something which is amiss somewhere, that the investigation machinery and number of other reforms are required to be done.
A number of reforms are required to be done. Mr. Dubal, I would like to come to you here. It's just that we're not only talking about the stringency of the law, but we're also talking about terrorist, allegedly called terrorist in the center. Now, there have been a number of encounters that we've seen, in fact, in the capital as well, and a number of people being named and allegedly called the terrorist after those attacks. But how to ensure that there has to be, there's a transparency in the system, as well as ensuring the stringency of the law, not actually affecting any community-specific sentiments?
See, what has happened, I'm just coming from Jamia Nagar. I was there yesterday and today also. What is happening there is actually, you know, there is a fear. The moment you see the man in uniform in Jamia Nagar today, this can send the chill down the spine of the ordinary citizen there. So what has been happening that every time there is a bomb blast, there is an immediate knee-jerk reaction, and there is a demand for new laws, for more, you know, stronger laws. I would call them weaker laws. You know, the stronger laws are the laws that strengthen the judicial system, that strengthen the evidence. I would call this kind of a demand of this kind of laws that are being called as strong laws or tough laws as weak laws, because these laws will undermine judicial process, they will undermine the process of trial, they will undermine the process of transparency, the notion of transparency. So I think the need of the hour is not to actually demand new laws, because the new laws, howsoever tough they may be, at best can be can aim at punishing people. There isn't much thinking going into how to prevent such acts, what are the root causes that actually in the first place have led to a situation where people are trying to resort to such
very
violence.
quickly, Mr. Dubal, if I would like to just ask you another question, because the report also says to some extent that there is no need of a federal investigative agency. Now, it talks about a specialized cell in the CBI itself. Do you think that not making the law stringent and actually having a federal investigative agency which can have a link with the other intelligence as well as security agencies can be a way out? Very quickly.
See, my point is that all this demand is by and large being, it's being driven by political factors. Now, if there might be a federal intelligence agency, again there is this whole political issue of states giving power to center. The primary problem is political. Even the demand right now seems to be a political expediency, where right just before elections we have this demand for a more stringent law. It is not a matter of whether we need a federal agency or whether states are not able to, or CBI or given agencies. Basically, they are over failure of administrative system, be it judiciary, be it police, be it governance. So I think looking at these kind of terror laws in isolation of larger failure and larger mistrust between police and the ordinary man, between state and the ordinary man, between the demands of an ordinary man and the duties of a state are the primary causes.
Thank you very much. But if I'd just like to come to you, Mr. Marwa, a federal agency, a specifically designed federal agency to investigate, can that be a way out?
Let me first comment on why we need special laws. You know, terrorism is not like any other crime. Here there is a crime where the victim is not targeted because for a particular aim, which is the case in normal crime. Here the victim is picked up at random, and the perpetrator of these terrible crimes are people who may have no criminal record at all. They are ideologically committed people. Now, to investigate these crimes, you require time, patience, hard work. That is why the first requirement of the special law is that the investigative agencies must be given sufficient time to keep a suspect under custody to interrogate him. It's very important because, and this is so even in the most advanced democracies in the world, it is most unfortunate, as Mr. Dawal has pointed out, that politics is being brought into this discussion. This discussion should be done purely on merits and demerits of having special laws. Then one can debate it. But today, unfortunately, it is not. It is politics as well as the communal angle which has been brought up. I may point out that we have had this experience of terrorism in Punjab, and we have successfully overcome it. At that time, all the suspects who were arrested by the security forces were Sikhs. Nobody raised the question that this is an onslaught on a particular community. Why is that question being raised now? This unfortunately gives the impression as if the terrorists or the suspects are an assault on the Muslim community. It's a very wrong conclusion, because basically these are few people who have nothing to do with the community or the religion. They can be in any religion, and we should not associate this religion. I strongly disagree with Mr. Dawal when he says that when he goes to Jamia and people think that the police is making an onslaught on the Muslim community. It is far from it. It's a very, the number of people have been killed. There is an encounter daytime at 11 o'clock. An inspector of police loses his life. Even then, these, there is this, in this country is facing a very serious danger of jihadi terrorism. It's not only our country. Number of countries in the world are facing today. We have to confront this danger. And by
in fact, if I may just stop you here, sir, in fact, this has to be faced with that initiative which has to be taken combinedly from almost everyone, and that's how the reflection also could be seen in the 73rd conference of the presiding officers and secretaries right there in Chandigarh, where the Honourable Speaker of Lok Sabha also expressed his views on it. Let's take a look.
Strictest law, we had attack on Parliament. When the strictest law was there, we had attack on Akshardham, if I'm not mistaken, with the Pota there. The question is of the implementation of a country, such a huge country. I know problems are there. What is probably essential as a layman, I can say, the very, very efficient intelligence service has to be done. But today all the countries are facing the problem. Unfortunately, the world is facing a problem. Even the developed countries who have got a very comparatively maybe more efficient system of policing, they are also facing this. Nobody is certain. What has happened yesterday in Islamabad, and it is a matter of such a, not only a tragedy, is a concern. We sympathize with them. We convey our condolences to all those who have perished there, our sympathies with all those who have suffered there. But it is becoming almost a world phenomenon. And no country seems to be immune from this. But therefore, I have always felt that it requires a world effort, joint world effort. But instead of that, in our country also, we find this Naxalism is still there. So many other vociferous tendencies are there. People are taking law into their own hands. Even the divisive nature of our politics, our polity, is putting us back many more years. We cannot tolerate each other on the basis of religion, on the basis of language, custom, caste. We have become an intolerant nation also. This is a great danger. However, all these things, I believe, makes it difficult. But all have to work together. But to find anything happening, immediately it becomes a matter of confrontation. Whether it's a flood or a suicide or a terrorist attack, immediately parties start blaming each other. And wherever it happens, the government there, whichever party it belongs, they are facing the music. Immediately becomes a political issue. And nearer the election, it becomes more critical. Therefore, I believe these are the areas we have to be still careful of.